Yuki wakes up after being kicked out of heaven. The first thing he sees is the blurry shape of a young girl he doesn't know. The girl introduces herself as Kokoro. She says the goddess Emetsu sent her to protect him. She explains that she found Yuki passed out, surrounded by a pack of wild wolves. Luckily, she got there just in time, otherwise, he might have lost 2 arms or legs. Kokoro asks him what his name is. After thinking for a second, he says his name is Yuki. Kokoro says the goddess told her in a prophecy that Yuki lost almost all of his memories. That's why he seems so confused. But that's okay, she's here to guide the one chosen by the gods. Yuki has no idea what she's talking about. But since Kokoro seems confident, he just nods like he understands. Kokoro takes out some food for him and reminds him that it's true, he doesn't remember anything right now. Yuki can tell she means no harm, so he happily eats the rice ball she gave him. But the wolves from earlier aren't done yet. They come back to attack. Kokoro senses them and quickly grabs her weapon. She tells Yuki not to worry, these enemies aren't too strong. She says once he gets more experience, he'll unlock the power that's hidden inside him. One day, he'll return to his rightful place as a ruler. Kokoro says she'll protect him and face all challenges for him. Yuki still doesn't get it, but it sounds important. He follows Kokoro, grabs a sword, and walks toward the wolves, looking just as confused as they do. But before he can fight any of them, Yuki gets attacked and dragged away. Their first battle ends in total failure, and Kokoro has to save him again. Luckily, since he's the main character, Yuki doesn't get hurt. He gets back up and tells Kokoro he's okay. But just as she starts to relax, he passes out again. This is harder than he thought. Yuki is still a beginner, he only just woke up and lost his memories. Right now, he's like a little kid, kind, obedient, but too innocent. Somewhere else on the same mountain, an orange-haired girl is washing her face by a lake. She's planning to move to the city today. As she steps out of the water, she hears someone screaming. She runs toward the sound and sees 2 guys, one fat, one skinny, with a third, smaller man crying and holding one of them on the ground. The skinny guy points to a big old tree nearby and says his brother suddenly got sick. The medicine they need is in a bag under that tree. He begs her to go get it to save his brother's life. The girl, being kind, doesn't think twice. She runs off toward the tree. But as soon as she turns away, the 2 men grin slyly. When she comes back, she finds out they've stolen her stuff and disappeared. Meanwhile, Kokoro and Yuki are heading toward a busy city full of people. Yuki looks around, confused. Seeing this, Kokoro explains, in this world, there are many kinds of beings, humans, beast people, demons, and more. I'm not human either. I'm an elf. She goes on to explain that they're in London, the biggest country on the continent, and they're standing in the middle of it. But while she's talking, Yuki wanders off. She turns around to find he's gone and quickly runs after him. She finds Yuki staring at a food stall. The vendor thinks they're cute and calls them siblings. But after hearing Kokoro's explanation, he changes his mind and calls them a couple. Yuki doesn't say anything, he just keeps looking at the menu and picks 2 dishes with the tastiest sounding names. Kokoro gives him some money, but instead of paying, Yuki sticks it in his mouth. She patiently explains to her clueless master that the coins are money, used to buy things, and they're important, not something to drop or lose. They get their food and sit on a long bench to eat. But then, a bigger problem shows up. They don't have enough money to pay for a place to sleep. The sun has already gone down, and Kokoro is about to sell her magic staff, something her dad gave her, to get money. But Yuki stops her with that familiar smile. So, they make a campfire and sleep outside on the mountain for the night. Just when they think the night will be calm, the 2 wolves come back. They're not pretty, but they are stubborn. They must really want Yuki, since they've already tried to eat him 5 or 7 times. Kokoro feels really bad about it, and the next morning, she gives Yuki all the money she has. She knows she has to find work to make more money so she can take better care of her master. When she sees that he still looks confused, she worries it's not enough and promises to meet him later that day to give him more. Right as she's about to walk away, Yuki suddenly hugs her tightly. He's learned that money is valuable and should be used wisely. But Kokoro still throws all her money into his hands. Yuki can't say much, he only knows a few simple words, but Kokoro understands how thankful he is. Yuki says he wants to help by working too, so they go to an inn in town. A beautiful girl named Karen, who helps run the place, greets them. There's a big board with lots of jobs posted. Kokoro sees one for fighting monsters, that's her specialty, but it's too hard for them right now. So Karen helps them find an easier job, collecting mushrooms near the Godto ruins. It's perfect for beginners. Their faces light up, and they quickly thank her. Then the story switches to the orange-haired girl. She's still worried about her sick brother and the swords she lost earlier. She doesn't think the people who took them meant to steal. Just then, she sees the two guys she was thinking about. She happily runs toward them. But the guys think she's coming to catch them for stealing, so they panic and run into the forest, hiding under the trees. Thinking they got away, they crawl out, only to look up and see something scary. Meanwhile, Kokoro and Yuki arrive at a garden to do their mushroom picking job. Kokoro shows Yuki how to do it, and then they split up to look for mushrooms on their own. Kokoro finds a weird mushroom that keeps saying, "Puchai puchai," so she calls it Puchiko. Yuki finds the orange-haired girl in the forest, she looks weak and is mumbling about being hungry. Yuki happens to have some mushrooms, so he takes her to Kokoro and offers her a big meal. After eating, the orange-haired girl doesn't say her name, so Kokoro calls her Pecorine. She learns that Pecorine is also here to pick mushrooms. Suddenly, giant mushrooms appear and attack them. The three quickly dodge the attack. Kokoro suggests they team up, and they rush into fight. During the fight, one of the enemies grabs the child. At that moment, Yuki's hidden power suddenly wakes up. He glows with a bright light. The light touches his teammates and makes them stronger. The battle quickly turns in their favor. While moving some food afterward, Puchiko jumps out and tries to bite someone. To Kokoro's surprise, Pecorine grabs it with one hand and pops it into her mouth. After a loud explosion in her head, Puchiko merges with Pecorine, who gets dizzy like she's drunk and passes out on Yuki's back as he carries her home. The next day, Kokoro comes looking for Yuki and finds him practicing his sword skill seriously. The mushrooms they picked yesterday turned out to be really tasty. Kokoro shows off her cooking skills and makes breakfast with them. They start to wonder if Pecorine is okay. Yesterday, she said she was heading back to Lando, so they just dropped her off in town. Kokoro mentions they don't have much money right now and maybe they should find a more stable place to live. A man nearby overhears them. He walks over, starts chatting, and suggests Kokoro could work as a guide. He says if she does, the manager might even lend her a house to use as a base. While he keeps rambling, the restaurant owner comes out and chases him away. Meanwhile, the two thieves who were attacked by mushroom monsters a few days ago finally wake up after being knocked out. They're just now coming to their senses and decide to go find a place to sell the sword. Pecorine, on the other hand, wakes up in a stable, hungry again. Yuki and Kokoro bump into her at a food-eating contest and also run into the two thieves there. As usual, Pecorine takes off chasing them without thinking, so Kokoro and Yuki run after her. Somehow, the three of them keep running into monsters. Pecorine lands a perfect punch that sends a wild boar flying. It goes flying dozens of feet and crashes into a woman standing nearby, knocking her out cold. Now they're stuck waiting for her to wake up. They feel responsible and have no idea that this girl is actually behind all the monsters they've been running into the past 2 days. When she opens her eyes, she sees Pecorine staring right at her. Instead of saying thank you, she just walks off coldly. Did Pecorine really lose her sword? Isn't this the perfect chance to deal with that strange girl? Q sits up in a tree, muttering to herself. By chance, she sees the two sword thieves walking nearby. Suddenly, a huge dragon swoops down from the sky and grabs them. But don't get it wrong, Kao has nothing to do with this. Still, it's pretty interesting. That dragon might actually come in handy. She goes straight to find Pecorine and shows the group where the dragon is hiding. Kokoro suddenly remembers a mission notice they saw at the inn. It said that dragons like collecting valuable stuff, so they're often spotted around Lando. Each person now has their own reason to go, and they head to the cave where the dragon is sleeping. The cave is huge, and the dragon is holding the sword tightly in its mouth. That's going to be a problem. Q quietly sneaks off and leaves the others to deal with it. Yuki comes up with a bold plan. He'll be the bait, Kokoro will provide support, and Pico will go for a direct attack. But things don't go as planned. Half the plan works, Yuki ends up right in the dragon's mouth with the sword. But no matter what Pico tries, she can't pull the sword out. She even gets dragged into the air, spinning around like crazy. She starts to lose her grip and falls, but luckily, she grabs onto the fat thief's head to hang on. Just then, Q, hiding below, casts a spell on the dragon to make it move around and try to knock Pico off. Right when it seems like she might fall, Yuki throws his cloak over the dragon's eyes, making it lose direction. That gives Pico a chance to fight back. She hits hard, and the dragon falls straight down, right onto Q. That's what they call karma, what goes around comes around. The dragon's spell breaks, and now everything is back to normal. It wakes up and reaches out to attack Q, but Pico jumps in to protect her. She finally grabs her sword, ready for battle. Everyone is safe, and the two thieves thank Pico over and over. Pico takes Q's hand and thanks her sincerely. A big part of their success was thanks to her. If Q hadn't shown them the way, how could the battle have ended under the setting sun? Pico says goodbye to the skinny and chubby uncles, and happily invites Q to eat with her. Even though it's just rice balls made from leftover lunch, they still taste great. Pico suggests starting a food guild, but Q doesn't want to join and storms off. The rice balls may be good, but she has her mission to focus on. Q has spent the whole day watching Pico, looking for any weakness. But all Pico does is eat, again and again, without going anywhere important. Meanwhile, Kokoro goes back to her workplace to apply for something called a guide association, or a guild. Karen is happy to help her complete the paperwork, but Kokoro says she just wants the registration forms for now. Yuki is waiting outside for Kokoro to return when he sees a small figure collapse on the ground. It reminds him of the time he met Pecorine. Without thinking much, Yuki walks over, places a rice ball next to the person, invites them to eat, and walks away calmly. He looks so cool and composed. You can't fix everything in the world, but doing what you can helps ease the heart. He doesn't notice that behind him, a creepy smile appears in the shadow. After Kokoro picks up the forms, she and Yuki head back. On the way, they see Kau hiding outside the restaurant where Pico is eating. Yuki and Kokoro ask her to join them. She refuses, trying to act proud, but her stomach growls loudly. Soon she's sitting in the restaurant with everyone, still keeping a blank face. Pecorine hands the menu to Q and tells her to order whatever she wants. But just then, the owner says they're out of all the ingredients. Don't worry, this restaurant has a secret dish only regulars know about. Pico quickly orders one. When the food arrives, Q understands why it's a secret. All the dishes are made from bugs. They look fancy, but they're still fat, creepy insects. Kokoro takes a bite and offers some to Yuki. Kau looks horrified. Why would a child give that kind of food to her master? Kokoro explains that Yuki needs good nutrition. People have to eat to live. While everyone's distracted, Pico shoves a bite into Kau's mouth. Kau drops to the floor in shock, but then realizes it tastes amazing. Actually, it's too good. The meal ends without trouble. Then Kokoro slowly pulls out the registration form again and asks everyone if they'd like to form a group. Pico jumps up and hugs Kokoro. What a sweet kid. As usual, Q stands up coldly and says she's not interested. She thanks them for the food and walks off. As she leaves, Q scolds herself. Her job is to eliminate Pico. So how could she sit and eat with her like that? And worse, she actually liked the bug dish. She picks a tamarind fruit from a tree and pops it in her mouth. The sour taste makes her smile, and she reaches for more, until a voice speaks behind her. She turns and sees someone she knows. The person questions why she's wasting time enjoying herself while her mission is going nowhere. Q gets angry and walks away, not wanting to argue. Behind her, that person's eyes keep watching the stubborn cat as she leaves. A new day begins. Pecorine excitedly tells her friends that the restaurant owner from before asked her to work for him. He said she has the talent to master the secret menu, and hired her on the spot. It's perfect timing, she was broke and had no food anyway. Now she can work in a place filled with delicious smells and spices. Pecorine loves it. She can earn money and follow her passion at the same time. Kokoro holds the registration form tightly behind her back. She's not excited anymore, not even thinking about handing it in. Piko's first day at work goes smoothly. The customers love her because of her energy and cheerful attitude that brings life to the restaurant. Kokoro sighs deeply. Starting a guild still feels like a distant dream. 3 little girls walk into the restaurant. Pecorine welcomes them and suggests the restaurant's best-selling dish. Outside, Q nervously paces back and forth in front of the restaurant. Yesterday, her boss told her to cancel the assassination mission right away. Things have changed a bit, but after receiving some encouraging words later, Q regains her confidence. She trusts the gods above to guide her, so she takes a deep breath and walks in. What Caius sees is Pecorine getting ready to feed some innocent children fried shrimp. What kind of behavior is this? He thinks. Kokoro sees Q and quickly walks over, registration form in hand. But she's caught and immediately scolded. Then Kau suddenly remembers why she came, to join the guild. She clears her throat twice and starts nervously rambling about it. Q's changed her mind. She wants to say something, but before she can finish, a large man bursts in. His attitude is rude and arrogant. First, he checks that the restaurant sells bugs, then right away punches another customer who's standing in his way. The big guy plops into a chair in the center of the restaurant, leaning back and demanding service in a nasty tone. Just then, the restaurant owner shows up, looking strong and godlike, ready to take this man down. But shockingly, the man easily breaks his arm like it's nothing. Seeing that he's probably just hungry, Pecorine accepts the challenge. She stands up and starts flipping pans with skill and confidence. Pico actually has a special gift she hasn't told anyone. As soon as she tastes something, she instantly knows how to cook it perfectly. She finishes the meal and presents it beautifully. But the fat man tells himself he must criticize it. He was paid by a rival to ruin the restaurant's reputation. Kau glances at the registration form that fell to the ground. She's been lost in thought, but now decides to do something. Just as the man is about to take a bite, Kau stops him. She says she wants him to experience this meal in the best way possible. Then she takes half a tamarind fruit, squeezes the juice onto the dish, and the whole plate lights up. The fat man can't hold back. He grabs his chopsticks and takes a bite. The moment the food touches his tongue, his taste buds explode. He can't believe this delicious food is made of bugs. The flavors blend perfectly, like a musical symphony in every bite. Even his brain starts playing joyful songs. People who were waiting for him to say something bad about the food are left disappointed. The fat man feels like his soul is floating in heaven and finally shouts, "So good. Way too good." But just seconds later, he forces himself to stay angry. He throws the plate to the floor, smashing it, and declares he'll shut this restaurant down. Pico's had enough. She grabs his arm and teaches him a lesson. She can handle a lot, but wasting food is where she draws the line. That moment leaves everyone in the room stunned, physically and emotionally. By the end of the day, Q finally gets to speak. She says she's joining the group. Now, they have 4 people, the number needed to officially form a team. Their mission: to explore the world in search of all kinds of food and ingredients to enjoy together. They stand in front of the house given to them by the guild. But when they open the door, they're met with pure disappointment. Even though the outside of the house looked nice, the inside was old and falling apart. Right away, everyone complained to Karen, saying, "Why is this place so haunted?" Karen gave an awkward smile and said there weren't many houses left to rent, so this was their only choice. There was nothing really scary about it, just the occasional ghost that liked to hang out there. Kau was scared, but Kokoro felt lucky they had a house at all. She asked Karen if she could clean it up. Of course, the guild leader said yes. Everyone got to work, cleaning the place from top to bottom and taking out all the junk. Then suddenly, Pico shouted, saying they had forgotten the most important thing, a dining table. Since the plan was for everyone to enjoy meals together, the table had to be just right. Pico offered to build one herself. Right after saying that, she went off to chop down a tree. Kokoro went down the mountain to buy supplies. Luckily, they still had some money left from their last dragon hunting job. She also made sure not to spend too much. While she was out, Kokoro met a kind woman named Sina who wanted to give her a plate that Kokoro liked as a welcome gift. It turned out Sina was the leader of another guild. Sina had a maid named Suzum. Sina kindly said she'd look after the store and told Suzum, help the girls carry this stuff home. On the way back, the two had a nice chat. Suzum shared that her boss used to be the vice captain of the Royal Knights, but later left to help orphans by starting the Serendia charity house. After a while, they arrived at a place that looked like paradise, but it was in the middle of a dark forest, with red eyes staring at them from all sides. They both stood there, shaking. Kokoro tried to calm Suzum down, but her words were a bit creepy, which scared Suzum even more. She grabbed the donkey and ran off, but tripped on a rock and fell flat while the donkey took off. Then, they heard something moving nearby. Kokoro quickly tied a rope into a loop, aimed carefully, and threw it forward. She managed to catch something, but it turned out to be a talking donkey. Not just any donkey, but one that loved being complimented. It was a girl donkey named Rema, and she worked at a farm across the forest called Elizabeth Park. Kokoro explained that the donkey had run away while she was pulling the cart. Rema happily offered to help. Even though she looked normal, she was really strong. Kokoro was a bit shy and worried Rema might get tired from lifting heavy things. But for Rema, it was no big deal. Back at the farm, Rema carried even more stuff. Meanwhile, Yuki and Q were still cleaning hard. Q set up a chair so Yuki could stand on it and clean the windows. But then a bug crawled under Q's skirt, and she screamed and let go of the chair. Without her support, the chair tipped over, and Yuki fell, hitting his head. He became dizzy and started seeing things. In his vision, he saw a girl. It was Emetsu, a goddess or something like that. She vaguely explained what was happening but didn't go into detail, since she knew Yuki wouldn't understand anyway. Instead, she created a magical barrier to send him back. Before she disappeared, she left a message. She said that once Yuki's relationships with the girls around him, his teammates, grew stronger, she would come back and help him again, just like before. She hoped he'd wait for that time. Yuki's eyes lit up, as if he heard something familiar. When he opened them, Kau was looking at him, worried. She let out a sigh of relief, thinking he almost died. He remembered what the goddess had said in the dream and told Q with a look that he was okay. Yuki's mind couldn't handle too much right now, but he would get better soon. The handmade dining table was finally done. Kau had to give credit to the little girl, she did a great job. And not just in cooking. But even though it seemed simple, there was a problem. The table was too big to fit through the door, so she had to spend more time carving it down. Meanwhile, Kokoro and the others ran into a group of robbers. When they saw Rema, they rushed to grab her. They wanted to sell her to a circus and didn't even care about the two pretty girls next to her. They should have just captured her, but they kept calling her a donkey. But like we said before, no donkey is this cute. Rema got angry, pulled out her sword, and fought back. In the middle of the forest, it looked like a bomb went off. Once everything was over, she felt hungry again. She pulled out her special apple and took a bite. What happened next shocked the two nearby. After a quick transformation, the fluffy creature turned into a beautiful girl. By the end of the day, everyone finished their tasks. Kokoro went back and smiled happily at the clean and perfect house. As for Rema, Suzum brought her back to her master. That was the end of a long day. The next morning, Yuki got sick. Kau said it was because he always slept with wet hair. Pecorine made porridge and said eating it hot and sweating would help him get better. Pico, porridge is supposed to be warm, not boiling. After just one spoonful, Yuki felt like his soul left his body. It was so hot, even the sick Yuki had to jump up. Hecarim treated him like a kid, saying, "Eat more so you'll grow strong and get better." Then she fed him another spoonful. It felt like torture from the old days, maybe even worse. Q couldn't take it anymore and said they were babying him. He just needs one night of sleep and he'll be fine. But when she walked over and touched his forehead, she quickly pulled her hand back. He was burning up like the sun. This was serious. Kokoro was making some village medicine she used to drink. But could it be trusted? There were even bugs in it. Pico wanted to add bugs into the porridge too. Kau held her head. "You can't fix everything with insects," she said. They had no choice. They had to take Yuki to a real hospital, or these two would end up nursing him into a dried-up corpse. But Q didn't know where the hospital was. They grabbed a giant map and decided to just walk into a random place. A girl dressed like a witch, but also like a doctor and nurse, welcomed them. It looked weird, but she seemed to know what she was doing. Pecorine told Q not to judge someone by their looks. The doctor told Yuki to take off his shirt for a full exam. After poking around and lifting his arms, she saw something and quickly called for surgery. Was it really that serious? The room went silent. Just watch what this doctor can do to make him feel 3 times better, she said. They tied Yuki down on the surgery table. Outside, Kokoro was so worried she caused a scene. Caillou tried to calm her down. This girl always loses it when it comes to him. We're in a city clinic. Stay calm so we can fix this. Then, a loud, sharp noise came from the room. The 3 outside turned pale. Kokoro panicked again. If Pecorine didn't stop her, she might have burned the place down. Just then, a skinny man ran past them, tripped over, and started yelling at them, like there was nowhere else to walk except that hallway. Wasn't that the troublemaker from the fish stall the other day? Just a few weeks ago, he was so fat he could barely walk. But now, the skinny man pointed at Pico's face and yelled at her, telling her to stop messing around. He said if it wasn't for her, he wouldn't be stuck here with this weird illness. The sound of sawing came from inside the room again, maybe the surgery was starting. He felt scared. This was it. If he missed this chance, he'd never get out of this nightmare. This place wasn't a hospital, it was a prison. No more waiting. While those creepy people weren't around, he had to run. They didn't understand anything. Maybe they should just move Yuki to a different hospital. Suddenly, a loud rumble came from the end of the hallway, the same way the skinny man had run earlier. A girl walked out holding an axe, dragging an unconscious man behind her. He slid across the floor, completely limp, unable to fight back. The 3 of them started shaking as they stared at the sign over the operating room door. Q turned to the nurse from before and asked what sickness Yuki had, but she said nothing. She just said, his family's taking him home today. Kokoro fainted right then. Who could have guessed things would end up like this? Ever since they made the guild, they had only run into crazy situations. And now little Kokoro had collapsed too. They didn't know what to do anymore. In times like these, you just have to eat a good meal to stay strong. The scary girl who dealt with the patient earlier was named Eroko. She was walking down the road when she heard someone calling from a fortune-telling stand and decided to check it out. The woman said she wouldn't charge because her father wanted to read the future of someone with a cursed fate, Ero. There was a skull on the table, and a ghost popped out of it, inviting Ero to have tea. Angry, she slashed him. She hated pervy jokes the most. She had to teach him a lesson so he'd behave. The skull quickly calmed down and started reading her fortune. You're looking for your soulmate, right? That day is almost here. Destiny will appear before you with warm breath. Eroko was in a great mood on her way back. She wondered why weird guys kept chasing after her. One thing was the same, they all got slashed by her. Maybe today she wouldn't meet her true love after all. She'd passed by the same operating room from earlier that morning. But the sound of heavy breathing inside made her stop. In the dark room, Yuki was gasping like a fish out of water. He opened his eyes and saw Eroko's face right in front of him. It made it hard to breathe. The next morning, the girls at home were already awake, wondering if Yuki was feeling better. The doctor was so strange that Kaoru was really worried. After breakfast, they planned to visit him. Maybe Yuki was already fine and crying for food at the hospital. But he wasn't hungry at all. He was almost scared to death. Eroko was staring at him with bright red eyes, holding a steaming plate of rice. Yuki looked at her in pure fear. Pico and the others were just leaving the house. When they got to the hospital, they saw a big group of people gathered outside. They were all thugs, angry that the hospital had taken everything from them. They said the girls were crazy for trying to rob this place. Nurse Nanaka said she didn't care about people from the other side of the city and warned them not to make trouble. That only made the crowd angrier. That thief Arrow must be here, right? Someone shouted. Then came the flash of a sharp axe blade. So loud in the morning. It's like a market, Eroko said. She looked down from the second floor with cold eyes and then came down to face them. If they wanted trouble, they had to deal with the consequences. Eroko didn't hold back, she attacked without mercy. Now they knew who they had messed with. Nanaka didn't let her teammate fight alone, she jumped in two and flipped half the city upside down. This power was really scary. Now it was the doctor's turn. She released flower petals full of poison, and they slowly fell to the ground. Her guild was called Twilight Caravan, one of the most feared groups in the world. The doctor warned them that if they didn't get treatment now, it would be too late. All three stood frozen. They had brought Yuki to this place for help, and now they had to get him out fast. While the doctor was distracted, they snuck into Yuki's room and found Ero there. Yuki was tied up on a chair like a chicken. Eroko was about to force a creepy-looking ring onto Yuki's hand. The three outside quickly came up with a plan. Q started thinking, wasn't Kokoro good with insects? Time to put that to use. Purple smoke began to fill the hospital. While Ero stepped out to check, the others rushed in to rescue Yuki. But when they opened the kitchen door, no one was inside. Pecorine and Q tried to escape with Yuki, but they found themselves trapped. Dangerous people were coming from both above and below. If they got caught now, they were done for. Q pretended to have a stomachache to distract the doctors, giving Pico a chance to push Yuki out of a second-floor window. It was the only choice. When Eriko arrived, the two had already escaped, leaving behind just the squirming cat. Kokoro and Pico took Yuki to a traditional clinic. The doctor there said he would be fine in a few days. Looking at the rash on his chest, the symptoms looked like a cold, a mistake many doctors make. But this doctor had done a great job, proving they were very skilled. They asked where Yuki had been treated before. When they found out it was Mitsuki's place, the doctor said that even though she was a little strange, her skills were real. That made everyone feel much better. The doctor said Caillou would probably be 3 times better by tomorrow. And sure enough, she was. Caillou came back, and it was clear she was doing much better. During breakfast, Pico showed them a flyer she found. It asked for help in Taga village to gather ingredients for spices. The reward was a daily wage and a share of Tagam seeds, rare and famous, known as fantasy spices. Pico wanted everyone to go do the job together. Caillou sighed and said, "Okay, let's go." The trip was smooth. The view was beautiful, like something out of a dream. It felt more like a fun camping trip. Caillou worked all day and only managed to catch 1 seashell, while Kokoro went around collecting bugs to eat. The sun was already low, and Caillou had only caught 2 tiny fish, about the size of tadpoles. This place felt like a rip-off. Kokoro tried to cheer them up by saying they could make soup using wild veggies and the frogs her master had caught. Eating wild greens was better than going hungry. Pico came back excited. She had caught some birds that looked really tasty. Whether they were birds or chickens didn't matter. They were big enough for all 4 of them to eat well. Thanks to Pico's restaurant-level cooking skills, the meat turned out juicy and amazing. They hadn't expected it to taste this good. She also gave everyone some wild fruit she had picked. Kokoro was about to try it to see if it was sweet or spicy, but then she saw a frog that had just eaten it, rolling around like it was poisoned. Cyu, acting drunk, suddenly ran over and hugged Kokoro, acting like a spoiled kid missing their mom. Moments like this helped them open up to each other and show their real selves. Everyone fell asleep except Kokoro. She sat by the fire, quietly sipping tea and watching her sleeping friends. She felt lucky to be in a team with them. The next morning, everyone got up and started freshening up. Yuki really had that main character energy, he just couldn't catch a break. Kokoro had let him go wash his face by the lake, but when she came back, she found him stuck in the mouth of a monster. The creature grabbed him and ran off like lightning. That's when everyone finally noticed, Yuki had been taken. Luckily, an arrow suddenly came out of nowhere and took the monster down. But the blast also sent Yuki flying several meters. He slammed his face into a tree and passed out. While unconscious, he could still hear voices near his ears. When he opened his eyes, he saw a wooden doll with a human-like face. Confused, he looked around, picked up the doll, and gave it a shake. Then a girl jumped out from behind the tree. She was a shy, quiet little thing who clearly wasn't good at talking to people. Yuki handed the doll back and thanked her for saving him. The girl bowed and said her name was Aoi. She promised she wasn't weird, she just liked talking to dolls. That doll was her practice buddy for when she didn't have any friends. Its name was Number 1. Even though Aoi could talk to animals and plants, she didn't have any human friends. She had always hoped to make some. Years went by, and she still chatted with Number 1, but barely spoke to people, so she didn't have many stories to tell. Now she was running out of things to say. Aoe blamed herself, saying someone like her probably wouldn't be ready for real friends for another 10 years. Yuki mumbled a few words, and Aoe guessed he was just like her, someone who wanted friends but didn't have any. She got excited and jumped right in, saying they could be friends and start a team. She asked number 1 if it had a good team name, then answered her own question like she was talking to someone else. Yuki stood there awkwardly, part of him wanted to run away, but that felt rude. So he just stood there, nervous and unsure what to do. Soon, the other 3 arrived. Aoe stood stiffly and said a quick hello. As they continued on their way, Aoe followed behind. Kao asked her to walk with them, but she shyly said no. Pico said it was great timing that they met Aoe right before reaching Taga village for the harvest. They had just arrived. A beautiful girl came out to welcome them to Taga village. Her first question was what their team name was. Kokoro froze, she hadn't thought about that at all. Pico quickly jumped in and said their guild was called Gourmet Palace. The girl introduced herself as Misido from the Forester Guild. She said there were other girls in the village too, like Hyzen, who was probably napping somewhere. Misido added that the Elizabeth Park Guild would be arriving later to help out. Everyone could just wait a little while. Kokoro remembered that was the guild of the kind older girl who had helped her while she was out shopping not long ago. Meanwhile, Rima and her guild were on the move. There were 4 people in her group. While they were getting ready to rest, something really weird happened. Dark shadows showed up that looked just like them, even matching their magical powers. It was creepy, like looking into a mirror. Back in the village, the Gourmet Palace team spotted a girl floating in the air, half asleep. She crashed into a stone pillar and fell, but somehow stayed asleep. Pekrine woke her up and asked if she was okay. It turned out to be Hitsumi, another member of the Forester Guild that Misido had talked about. In the forest, Rima and her teammates managed to take down the strongest member of the enemy team, a fake version of Rema. Just when they thought it was over, a powerful force suddenly showed up and took them all down. It was Christina, Kau's teammate, but she didn't share the same goals as them. Hitsumi then talked about her little sister. Her name was Siren, and she loved books. Even though she wasn't strong, she would stay up late reading, totally focused on her stories. Hitsumi had bought some new books and was waiting for the day she could see her sister again. She and everyone else had no idea that, at that exact moment, the sister they missed so much was in big trouble that would be hard to get through. On the other side of the forest, 4 members of the Gourmet Guild were out early in the morning to start picking fruits. Even though the sun had just come up, everyone was happy and full of energy. Kokoro picked up a handful of soil. The land had great drainage. It was clear the people here had been taking care of it every day. The smell of spices filled the air and made everyone hungry. Hitsumi walked over. These days, she wasn't sleeping on the streets anymore, because whenever she used her powers, she would run out of energy and fall asleep. So, she had sealed her powers away. Everyone was surprised to hear that. It was their first time meeting someone with real powers, not magic or spells. Misido tried to comfort her, saying she didn't need to worry. It looked like they were all kind people. As long as they kept it a secret, everything would be okay. Suddenly, villagers shouting grabbed everyone's attention. They rushed over and saw the Elizabeth Park group lying on stretchers, being carried by villagers. Maharu, barely able to speak, explained that they had run into a group of imposters in the forest and were attacked by a mysterious, evil woman. As for Siren, they lost her during the fight, even though they tried their best. No one could imagine how hard it was for them to make it back. Kokoro helped Rima with her injuries while the villagers started whispering. The rumors were true. Lately, people had said they were seeing exact copies of themselves in the forest, then getting attacked by them. It also seemed that the innkeeper had been missing for a few days. Hitsumi used her powers to read Rima's memories and quickly realized something was very wrong. She panicked and wanted to rush out to find and save her sister. But Misido stopped her. Don't be reckless. Every beginning is hard. Stay calm to fix the problem. We'll go with you to rescue Siren, she said. Yuki agreed to go too. Since the main character agreed, the others couldn't say no. Aoe joined in, forming a strong team where no one was left behind. This wasn't really the Gourmet Guild's problem. They had no reason to step in. But their hearts wouldn't let them ignore what was happening. They didn't know that deep in the forest, a clever and dangerous trap had already been set, waiting for someone to walk into it. Pico turned to ask Q to come along, but found out she had already left earlier. Meanwhile, let's give the villain a temporary name, the antagonist. She hypnotized a villager and sucked the soul right out of them. We don't even need to say more, it's clear she'll be causing big problems for the main characters soon. Rima got better after Kokoro treated her, then returned to the forest where the attack happened. Aoe could feel something strange about the area, like the whole place was holding back out of fear. Hitsumi flew up using her powers to look around. Out of nowhere, an invisible force hit her straight on. Luckily, it wasn't her time yet, so she didn't die. But the hit took all her energy, and she dropped from high up in the air to the ground. Then she saw something that shocked her, a familiar name. Seiren came out to face her. But something was wrong. Seiren's color changed from gray to red, and then she turned into a bow and arrow and aimed at her sister. Hitsumi had to use all the strength she had built up over half her life to block the next attack. Now turned to darkness, Seiren was 100 times stronger. The impact from that attack shook the entire forest, burning a large area to the ground. When everyone arrived, all they saw was Hitsumi kneeling on the ground with tears in her eyes. "Stop being so down," someone said. They needed to figure out what was going on before things got worse. Kao stood alone on top of the hill, deep in thought. She feared that only one person could have that much power, and if this kept going, the whole village might be destroyed. Pico shouted from a distance. Earlier, Pico had seen the worried look on Kao's face and knew something was wrong. Kao hid her thoughts and replied, "You're just seeing things. When is Kao not like that? Not everyone is full of sunshine like you, Pico." While they were talking, another sharp scream echoed, followed by creepy, strange sounds. Pico didn't wait, she ran toward the noise. Down below, the village was surrounded by demons. Scary spirits were chasing the villagers. In a moment of danger, Pico got there just in time to save a little girl. Then an arrow came flying, it was Seiren. What was that child doing there? Yuki and Rima ran after her and saw she was heading toward the village. Just as they were about to go help, Christina showed up. Rema warned everyone to stay alert. Christina was the one who had attacked the Elizabeth Guild. Chris quickly gained the upper hand, spotting weak points and attacking hard. Yuki ran in to block the attack, but he failed. Luckily, Kokoro jumped in fast and put up a shield. He hit the ground and passed out. While unconscious, Yuki saw the familiar goddess, Emetsu, who woke him up. Yuki panicked for the first time and begged her to send him back right away. His team was in danger and he had to help. Emetsu shook her head. She was surprised Chris and Yuki had met again so soon, though it seemed neither remembered clearly. Right now, Emetsu couldn't help in the real world. Only Yuki could save Kokoro and the others. "Use the power of the Princess Knight," she said. "The same power you used before you lost your memory. Remember it, and save them." Even the brave Rima had fallen. Yuki woke up like a miracle had happened. Without saying a word, he released his power, boosting everyone's strength. They all felt like they'd been reborn, much stronger than before. Rima turned back into her human form and attacked boldly. They were close to winning. Yuki moved in for the final blow, but Christina wasn't going down that easily. She blocked his sword and kicked him hard, sending him flying. "I've gathered enough info today, so I'll stop here," Christina said. "That little Seiren looks like she's been swallowed by darkness. But if part of her mind is still there, maybe there's a way to save her." Pico was still fighting the dark power, but she couldn't keep up. Q had planned to just watch, but couldn't help jumping into the fight. The little kid still wasn't awake, and they still needed to collect ingredients and spices for cooking. Through the smoke rising from the battlefield, Hitsumi came down from the sky. She entered Seiren's mind and managed to escape with her. They teamed up to break free from the mind control and remove the darkness from Seiren's soul. The whole team worked together and got rid of all the threats. Peace finally returned to the quiet village, and no one had been hurt. After leaving the village, the Gourmet Palace Guild took on more missions and got praise from Lady Karen, a leader in the guild management group. They enjoyed peaceful days together, often sitting in the big field that also served as the main rice-growing area of Landozan. Everyone worked hard. The rice tasted great, but recently, a lot of wild animals had been showing up and causing trouble. Birds and wild boars kept raiding the fields. Even though the farmers tried to stop them, they couldn't. So now, the mission was to help the farmers get rid of these pests. Since the reward was princess rice from this very field, Kao had no choice but to report everything that happened in Taga village to the demon lord. Her whole body was shaking. The queen had also given her another task, to watch Yuki and report back. Finishing her thoughts, Q took a sip of water and looked at the guild. Why do I even have to watch these people? She wondered. It just felt pointless. While everyone was focused on picking a mission, Yuki noticed a paper posted lower down. It was a request to find a teacher. Karen stepped up and said, "This isn't a real mission. Those kids keep posting it, even though it gets taken down all the time." Kao thought it was a waste of time, and they all left with nothing. But Yuki still held onto that paper, deep in thought. As they were leaving, they ran into a group of kids causing a loud, sad scene. "If anyone wants to help, go ahead. I'm heading home," Kao said. But the kids blocked her path, still crying. They ended up sitting down at a drink shop to talk. The kids admitted they were the ones who posted the paper. They really wanted someone to teach them how to become real adventurers. Kao asked why they were so interested in guild work, and the kids said it was for the peace of Landozen. Saying that only made things more awkward. No one knew what to say. These kids were so serious, it made the adults feel ashamed, like they didn't know what they were doing. Yuki agreed to be their teacher right then and there. That night, Q lay in a hammock, unsure of what to do. The mission seemed both easy and hard, like babysitting a bunch of kids. Kao said she wouldn't be a good guide. She didn't even like kids. If these girls weren't more polite than most people, she'd probably hate them, too. Meanwhile, Pico was busy working on crafts to get ready for tomorrow. Yuki planned to give the kids something after the mission. Pico didn't say much, but whatever Yuki was making looked kind of ugly. The next morning, Pico's first lesson was a treasure hunt. The spots marked with X on the map had buried treasures. Find them and bring them back. Yuki would be watching them. "Don't worry," Pico said. "I made sure this path is safe and has no monsters." Q sighed. "Why do I feel so uneasy?" she thought. She and the others hid behind trees, watching Yuki and the three kids do the mission. The compass always pointed north, but Yuki thought it was showing them the right way and confidently led the kids that direction. But they got lost, and ended up in trouble. The kids were surrounded by spiders, and it took them a while to handle it. The others quickly stepped in and reminded Yuki to stay focused. He agreed. But instead of going back the right way, Yuki flipped the map and pointed in a random direction, just as unclear as their future. The carefully planned route was ruined. They had to use their last resort plan. Pico had worked all night making a monster costume. She used her smarts to try and warn the kids this path wouldn't work. But she didn't expect the kids to team up and actually defeat her. The path kept getting worse. They were heading into the most dangerous area. They ran into more and more monsters. Yuki lost count of how many times he almost got eaten. Q and Kokoro had to rescue him, almost dying themselves. Sitting there, gasping like they were being chased by ghosts, Q couldn't figure out why they were the ones ending up so exhausted.
Yuki never gave his teammates a break. He was great at making trouble for others. Somehow, he ended up crawling into the mouth of a giant bird monster. Kokoro, Kao, and Pecorine followed it to its cave. That's when they realized, it was the one destroying the crops. No wonder the farmers couldn't stop it. Even if all the farmers came together, it wouldn't help. They'd been fighting monsters all day and were completely worn out. They also forgot something important. When Pecorine is full, she becomes amazing. She found the kids' lunchboxes and kicked a few bites around. Suddenly, the bird's nest exploded. The three kids woke up, thinking they had won. While planting rice, Pecorine smiled and said they were just doing what the farmers asked. As a reward, they'd get rice. Pico said she would cook for everyone. It was going to be super tasty. The kids were now playing with baby ostriches in the field next door. They were overjoyed. When baby birds hatch, the first thing they see becomes their mom. Looks like these chicks already saw the three kids as family. Landozen is a big city. If you buy something, you get tickets for a prize draw. Kokoro saw some shoes and thought they'd look good on Yuki. She handed in 4 tickets and spun the wheel 3 times, getting white balls each time, until the last try. That classy Kao from 2 months ago. She's gone. Now she's a happy, lively girl who loves planting rice. Her stomach growled loudly. She took her shopping home to make dinner. But when she opened the door, everyone was packing like they were going on a beach trip. Pico said Kokoro had won the grand prize in the draw. They were going to the beach. That night, Yuki sat on his bed, ready to sleep, when Kokoro knocked and came in. "You're probably wondering why I look like this," she said. She told him she grew up in the mountains and didn't really know anything about swimsuits. She wasn't sure if it looked good. Even though the shop lady said she looked cute, if Yuki didn't like it, she wouldn't wear it. Of course, the main character wasn't going to say anything bad. Actually, it looked pretty good. Kokoro let out a sigh of relief. She said she even tried to borrow a swimming book from the library. "You should try practicing," she told him. So that night, the two of them practiced swimming on land. The little cat on the floor below couldn't sleep well from all the noise. The next morning was bright and sunny. Pico, in a cute swimsuit, ran to touch the ocean. She was so thankful. Without the others, she'd never get to enjoy a trip like this for free. She was overjoyed. Q, meanwhile, was hiding. She didn't want anyone to see her. Who would have guessed that right after getting a mission to watch them, she'd run into a beach disaster? Pico and Yuki played in the water, splashing each other. But Yuki didn't know anything about swimming. He just stared straight ahead and let all the saltwater hit his eyes, then covered his face in pain. Like a daycare teacher, Kokoro gently told him, "There's salt in the water. You have to close your eyes." "Oh, got it," he said. Yuki started teasing them back. Pico laughed and splashed water at them both. Soon, they drifted several feet away in the current. Of course, they couldn't forget Kao. Pico thought of a game for Q too. She pretended to be a spaceship engine and pushed Q around the beach. That scared Q a lot. When they got back, Pico was so tired she could barely move. She had pushed them into such a wild situation, it almost felt like they were going to be reborn. Q yelled at her, "Don't treat the ocean like a joke," she said. Kokoro looked surprised. "Wait, I thought Pico never got tired. How did she almost drown out there? Let me tell you all a little secret." Pico said, "Actually, the regular clothes I wear help boost my strength, keep my body healthy, help me recover when I'm tired, keep me warm, stop shoulder pain, and do a ton of other things. But the downside is that they make me super hungry. Sometimes I even faint from hunger, it happens a lot. Without these clothes, I'm just a regular girl." Kokoro finally understood that both Pico's strength and her big appetite had a wild secret behind them. Kao felt a little uncomfortable and asked, "Are you sure it's okay to tell us that?" Pico laughed, "We're teammates. It's totally fine." Then they ran into the maid, Sue, again. Her donkey cart's brakes weren't working and she was racing down the beach road. Kokoro's group helped stop her and they all caught up. They found out that Saren was also nearby and had opened a food shop. So they went to see her and ordered a big meal. It didn't disappoint, the food was amazing, and Saren looked beautiful too. Saren watched them eat and looked very happy. Just like the rumors said, they really loved food. But something felt off. It was super hot outside, yet the shop had no other customers, even though the food was a perfect 10 out of 10. Saren explained that another shop on the beach had taken all her customers. Their best-selling dish had become super popular. "That's just how competition works," she said. Pico offered support, "It's okay. If we come here and eat every day, that'll help." Then she asked, "By the way, what's their best-selling dish?" The rival store really knew how to attract people. The place was big, the staff were super friendly, and the energy was great. In terms of looks, Saren couldn't compete with their vibe. But more than that, the other shop had serious cooking skills. Even Saren had to admit, their grilled dishes were fantastic. In business, sometimes you have to try new ideas to stand out. If you just follow the usual path, who knows how long it'll take to succeed. Aino then introduced herself. "Sorry for the late intro. I'm Aino, leader of the Mercurius Commerce Guild," she said. "Let me explain more clearly. People think eating cold ice cream on a hot day makes sense. But swimming in cold ocean water actually makes your body cold, so it's better to eat something hot and sugary afterward." She went up to Saren and challenged her. But Saren stood her ground. "Don't waste your time. I'm not joining your team," she said firmly. Muyu couldn't take Saren's attitude and blurted out what was really going on.
The boss wants to recruit you because you're super talented, but she's nervous and can't say it right. Sorry if we were awkward about it. But her words felt harsh, like rubbing salt in a wound. That made Q furious. Anger bubbled inside her and she couldn't hold it back. Gourmet Palace is going to make a next-level menu, she shouted. Aino wasn't a bad person, really. Sarin spoke up for her. Her family was rich, but Aino wanted to make it on her own, so she opened the Mercurius restaurant without their help. Sarin appreciated the Gourmet Palace crew offering help, but felt a little guilty for messing up their beach vacation. They reassured her, saying, the whole reason we created Gourmet Palace was to discover and learn about amazing food. Don't worry about us. Meanwhile, 2 workers from the Mercurius restaurant were on break after a long shift. One was slowly enjoying a fish-shaped taiyaki cake, while the other gulped down a drink. One of them said she only came to help because Aino wanted to open a restaurant. But lately, she kept seeing couples holding hands and kissing, and it made her feel annoyed and lonely. She couldn't take being single anymore. Her friend, completely drunk, had no idea what was going on. Annoyed, the other girl picked her up and threw her into the sea, even though a sign clearly said no swimming. Suddenly, she saw her friend's head buried in the sand, with her feet sticking out. She didn't know if the sand was too deep or if her friend was stuck. Then, out of nowhere, the water rose up into the air. Her loud scream echoed across the beach. People started running and shouting, a monster had appeared. The sound of gongs rang out, catching the attention of Pico and the others who were fishing by the shore. That drunk girl still hadn't woken up. Wasn't that annoying? Bee quickly ran over. After finding out what happened, she ran down and grabbed the girl with just her bare hands, even though it was risky. What a mess. Watch how Q takes care of this chaos. Someone said that no amount of strength could beat the 12 divine spells. Both sides worked together to stop the giant octopus, and finally, they could all rest. As for the octopus, of course, they turned it into a great business opportunity. The 2 lifelong rivals decided to make peace when Sarin found loyal customers for her shop. This fight didn't stop because someone lost, but because they both agreed to stop and work together for everyone's benefit. Kau took everyone to explore under the sea, seeing things they'd never seen before. The episode ends on a touching note. Everyone went home after their vacation. Kokoro wanted to bring the fresh octopus to the restaurant owner. Pikarin had gone shopping, so she didn't go with her. Kokoro thought it was better to deliver it while it was still fresh. But when she opened the door, things felt off. 2 regular customers were kneeling at one end of the table, begging the owner to cook for them. But he just sat there, hugging his knees, mumbling, pudding, pudding. Kokoro was about to tell him to take a break when he suddenly jumped up and rushed to make some cakes. Yuki pointed to the ceiling, saying there was something up there. But no one else saw anything. Then a voice spoke, introducing herself as Siniabu, a fortune teller from the city. She had heard the owner was acting strange and came to check it out. A moment later, she saw a ghost floating above the owner's head. The little ghost was happily eating the cake he made. Because Yuki could see things that others couldn't, Siniabu asked if he'd visit her guild. The house felt weird, dark and cold like ice. Suddenly, an axe fell in front of Yuki. When he looked up, he saw 2 little girls shaking with fear. They blamed Shinobu for bringing a stranger into their home. She told them it was okay because this person could help the king of the Shadow People, a legendary vampire, fully recover. Kokoro didn't understand what was going on, but all those words sounded dangerous. Before they could leave, a bunch of bats appeared and a voice told them they couldn't go. So, they had no choice but to keep moving forward. In the middle of the room was a huge crystal. The person inside opened her eyes to greet Yuki and Kokoro. She was the ruler of the night, Julia Onstein. Kokoro could feel the strong magic coming from the crystal. Onstein opened a space and stepped out in front of everyone. Shockingly, as soon as she came out of the coffin, her body became small, almost childlike and super cute. Shinobu explained again who she really was, the queen of the demon race who once led the fight against humans, elves, and beastmen. She lost the holy war and had been sealed away ever since. Now the seal was broken, but because her magic was so weak, she was stuck in that small form. Kokoro was scared she might eat her master, but that didn't happen. Onstein gently placed her hand on Yuki's chest, feeling the power inside him. This was the key to helping her get her full powers back. But everything went wrong when the bats suddenly attacked Einstein. How could they call themselves loyal if they were bullying their own master? No one expected her magic to be so weak. Yuki saw her being attacked, ran over to hug her, and then ran away with her. Maybe seeing her hurt touched his heart, because his powers suddenly awakened. The energy coming from him affected Einstein. She instantly changed back into her original adult form. Now it was time to show those creatures who their real master was. The magic spreading over the hills shocked everyone. Now they finally believed she really was the legendary vampire. But the powerful moment didn't last long. She quickly turned back into her tiny form. Kokoro told Yuki to leave while no one was paying attention. The little ghost's pudding had just been knocked over by him. They couldn't just run away like that. The ghost might curse them. Back at home, Q was waiting for everyone to return. When she heard a knock on the door, she opened it, but a bunch of scary demons stood outside. "Where did you go to bring these guys back?" she cried. "What if we all get cursed?" Kokoro told her to let them inside first, and then they'd explain. He told her everything, but Q was still panicking. Who could stay calm knowing there was now a ghost in their home? Pico ran into some people she knew while shopping. It was rare to see everyone out together. One guy joked that the house owner had been possessed by a ghost, but thankfully Yuki had handled it in time, so they were out celebrating. Right after he said that, someone hit him with a pan from behind. Meanwhile, Pico had gone to help her mom, and they were having a nice talk. Back at home, Q was frantically mixing a bunch of pudding. Kokoro was trying to convince the little ghost that someone in the house was really good at cooking. He suggested she let that person make something for her. Of course, Mizuko said no. When Pico got home, the whole house was filled with pudding. She promised the ghost she'd make something really tasty, if Mizuko turned everyone back to normal afterward. After the first bite, the ghost was so amazed she thought she might finally move on to the next world. But then Pico brought out 2 giant bugs, scaring Mako so badly she dropped back down to earth. Sinu decided to take the troublesome ghost away. The next morning, everyone got up for breakfast, but Pico couldn't find Q. She ran straight in and kicked open her bedroom window. Kau looked at Pico and sighed. "Next time, try respecting people's space. Thanks to you, my favorite teddy bear is ruined." "Don't worry, Kokoro's got this," she said. Everyone headed to the market to find things to fix the bear. First, they needed to find fabric that matched its color. The market was big, so they split up to look. Yuki found evil energy attacking the villagers and drew his sword to fight. But he was too weak. Right when the spirit was about to hypnotize him, a girl came out of an alley and defeated it easily. She saved him just in time. Yuki was shocked, but the girl acted like they were old friends. She talked to him like they were close, but then remembered he had lost his memory. Before they could talk more, another girl grabbed her and ran off. In a hidden corner, the girl who said she was Yuki's older sister apologized for acting on impulse. They were supposed to stay hidden and just watch. But she couldn't help herself. Rino was mad and jealous, she wanted to talk to him too. Maybe she should just go out there and see what happens. After a loud crash, the little girl forgot what she had just decided and quietly followed her big sister. Kokoro kept looking but still couldn't find what she was looking for. Then she saw a really beautiful butterfly that looked oddly familiar. She chased it into a dead end, where it vanished. They all met back up. None of the 3 found what they needed, but nobody gave up. Kokoro suggested they split up again to look, maybe they missed something the first time. Meanwhile, Q finished cleaning the house and remembered what her master told her. She went to report to the queen. On the way, she saw wildflowers and picked them, thinking the queen might like them. At the palace, Kairu went inside but didn't see the queen anywhere. She looked around and called for her. After a moment, someone responded from in front of her. It was the villain, upgrading the shadows to make them stronger. "How do you like this?" she asked. Kau held the wildflowers tightly. Her eyes showed fear she couldn't hide. "What are you planning to do?" she asked. As a puppet walked past Kairu's bouquet, the flowers suddenly wilted. Kokoro and Yuki were out looking for thread and cloth to fix something, but couldn't find any. They ended up getting distracted by a bakery. Yuki ate messily, and Kokoro wiped his mouth with a handkerchief. Worried the stain might stay, she asked to go wash it. She was walking normally when an arrow landed in front of her. It had a piece of paper attached. She opened it and noticed someone hiding behind a nearby tree. Reno came over angrily to ask why someone would pull such a stunt. She was Yuki's servant. She jumped around in frustration. Keijiro saw the noise and ran over. Reno quickly told on the girl, saying someone was always clinging to Yuki. Shizuru, who was much calmer, came to apologize for the trouble. Her younger sister could be a bit much. Kokoro started to wonder if they both knew Yuki. But just as they were about to answer, they realized he had vanished. Only a half-eaten pastry was left behind. Had the shadow demons taken him? It was possible. Strange disappearances had been happening all over the city. They had to split up and look for him. Kokoro went back to find Pico and told her Yuki was missing, and that shadows might be sneaking into the city. They weren't sure, but there were no other leads. Just then, two villagers passed by, talking about someone who had caused trouble and been taken away. Even without hearing the name, they already knew who it was. They rushed over to the place. Pico kicked open the door and ran in, but instead of Yuki, it was Cherai, who calmly handed over the person without a fight. Elsewhere, the Reno sisters were battling supernatural beings, but they also found nothing strange. The clues were still stuck at the beginning. They had no choice but to post a missing person notice. Karen came by and, after hearing what happened, said Yuki had just been there. Yuki then walked in, holding something rainbow-colored and looking dirty. Earlier that morning, while eating a hot dog on the sidewalk, he saw Arrow, the spooky figure, shopping. He got so scared that he dropped everything and ran away. Later, he saw the mission notice on a bulletin board and thought it was what they needed to fix the teddy bear. So he went to get it himself. Even without his memories, Yuki always helped others without question. That's why he was Shizuru's most loved brother in the world. Kau quietly went home. But that shadow was nothing like the ones they'd seen before. Would everything be okay? Before going into the house, she tried to act cheerful so no one would worry about her. But when she got inside, the house was completely empty. Q's eyes filled with tears. Pico pulled out today's mission sheet. She had actually gone to the market that morning, but there wasn't much to buy. People said a monster had blocked the bridge, which was the main way in and out of the city, so no one could trade. If the Lando officials stepped in, things might go back to normal. But for some reason, the royal army wasn't doing anything. Pico saw the mission on the board and decided to take it. It wasn't just a risky job anymore, it was basically a death wish. Still, nothing changed. Everyone kept taking the mission like fighting this terrifying monster was just another adventure. Pico came up with a plan. First, they needed to draw the monster away so it wouldn't break the bridge. Pico's shoulder armor could block attacks, so they just needed someone to wear it and run fast. Pico knew that Q wouldn't let Kokoro or Yuki take the risk. This is the last time I'm listening to one of Pico's wild plans, Q said. The monster tripped on a rope stretched across the road. Pico rushed in and raised her sword for the final hit. Thanks to Pico, the monster was defeated and the village was safe again. Pico became as famous as a top star. Everyone praised her, which made her really happy. The villagers were also glad because they could live in peace again. By chance, Kokoro led the group to the same food shop where Yuki and Kokoro had eaten on their first day in Landozan. Two women came out of the shop, and it turned out to be Reno and Suzuru. Even more surprising, the shop owner was connected to Yuki's journey too. They left the place in the hands of the Reno sisters. The owner had other things to do and left early. It had been a while since they'd all been together. Suzuru invited everyone to eat. Don't hold back. Eat as much as you want, she said. They had no idea how much trouble that offer would cause. Pico ate so much that the shop almost fell apart. The light meal was over. Luckily, the two sisters survived. They deserved a medal for putting up with it all. That night, old memories started coming back to Yuki. Emetsu appeared and tried to calm him down from a nightmare. What Yuki saw wasn't really a dream or real life. It was the past, or maybe the future. I'm sorry we pushed you this far, but there's no other way. Atatu always believed you could do this. Let's meet at the finish line, okay? When Yuki opened his eyes, he was still dazed. He decided to ask Pico to train him in sword fighting. Yuki was acting differently now. He didn't smile or laugh when Q teased him. He looked completely serious. They stopped by a restaurant to eat and gather strength. Strangely, Q still hadn't shown up. While waiting, they decided to order more food. They started chatting about the kingdom's princess. Everyone seemed to be having fun, except Pico, who quietly kept eating. Kau was on his way to the restaurant when he came across two homeless guys who were drinking. Suddenly, something dark blocked the light. It was the shadow monster Q had been thinking about for days. When Pico heard the noise, she ran over. The monster was already attacking people. She jumped in and cut off one of its arms. Normally, the arm would grow back, and it did. But this time, the monster came back even angrier. Q couldn't just stand there and rushed in to help. They fought hard together. Pico managed to cut the monster in half. But it came back to life and used magic to break the wall. Rocks and dirt were about to fall on Q, but Pico blocked it with her leg. She took off her shoulder armor and gave it to Q. Pico smiled softly, as if to say everything would be okay, then charged back into the fight, trusting her life to the battle. Through the smoke, they saw a hole in Shadow's head, and Pico collapsed, completely drained. Q scolded her, calling her foolish. Why did you risk your life to protect someone weak just to end up like this? Kokoro and Yuki arrived and saw what had happened. The monster was healing itself. Kokoro rushed to help Pico, while Yuki used his power to boost his teammates' strength. Suddenly, a vision of everyone falling appeared in Yuki's mind, and it made him feel dizzy. As Shadow reached out to grab him, walls rose from the ground to block him. When Yuki opened his eyes again, the place around him looked destroyed. The bread seller showed up. She had been hiding near Yuki under a fake identity. Kokoro and Pecorine had already been taken to a safe place. Kokoro and Pico were brought to Landozen Castle. There, Kokoro saw a family portrait with Pecorine at the center. A truth hidden for a long time was finally revealed. Pico's real name was Tenno Vanise, the princess of Landozen. Her family had sent her out to hear the voices of their people for herself, to see their lives with her own eyes, and to live among them. When she returned, her father believed she would be ready to grow and guide the country to a better future. The crown she wore held the power to protect Channa from danger. She had traveled the land, living different lives. But when her journey ended and she came back, the soldiers strangely refused to let her in. She had to jump over the high gate and accidentally ran into her mother's maid. Pico would never forget the look the maid gave her, like she was a stranger or even an assassin sneaking into the palace. Pico wanted to run away from this nightmare. She found the king and queen and told them she had lived through the world, but their silence told her they didn't recognize her. Then, the door behind them opened, and the person everyone believed was her walked in. A fight broke out somehow, and she ran away. She continued her journey and eventually met Kokoro. Even though Pico was happy with her new friends, deep inside, she was always scared they would forget her too. That's why she always stayed close to them, so the bond between them wouldn't fade. Kokoro hugged her and promised no one would leave her. They would be her strength. Q, who had seen everything from behind, turned to face the monster like she had gained new strength. The bread-selling sister said she was ashamed to call herself Yuki's ally because she had dragged him into all this, but now she would stand by him to the end. Inside Yuki, a powerful force was hidden, one that could save everyone or destroy him. He had lost his memory, and they weren't sure if it was because of this power. If he used it now, no one knew what might happen. Maybe that's why he couldn't use it during the last fight. Shadows were drawn to human souls. They had already destroyed many villages and had become incredibly strong. They were born from human desires. Yuki had to figure out how to fight them. As long as he was still around, the others couldn't win. The captain of the Royal Knights sealed the ruins after the fight to search for answers. Christina, the vice captain, arrived. It was such a big incident, yet they only learned about it after everything was over. No one knew what the queen in the castle planned to do next. Elsewhere, Q was fighting with everything she had. Deep down, she was torn between two sides. No matter which side she chose, it felt wrong. So she let go, stopped fighting, and left it all to fate. She was tired of being stuck in the middle, getting in the way of both sides. Luckily, Pecorine arrived just in time. She thought Yuki was unsure of what to do. His sister was about to say sorry and just let things happen as they would. But no, Yuki might have lost his memory, but he still knew what needed to be protected. He was ready to fight. Then let's go, she said. I'll give you some power to help. She hoped Yuki would come back with good news. The entire gourmet guild was there. Now was the moment to prove that just because a lake is quiet doesn't mean it's as harmless as a house cat. Yuki released his power, letting the others move forward first. When it was his turn, Kokoro helped from behind, boosting his armor and letting him land a perfect strike on Shadow's weak spot. Shadow turned into smoke and vanished in the air. The whole group was suddenly brought back to Landozen village. They appeared right in the middle of the inn, like they had come back from the dead. Everyone there was overwhelmed with emotion. Peace had returned. The war wasn't over yet, but that day, the gourmet palace had become truly united. Pekarin hugged Kaio tightly. This time, the fiery cat didn't push her away. Such a big event had just happened, and they only found out after it was all over. No one knew what the queen in the castle would do next.